Hollywood adores an underdog tale, but the Thermopylae saga, it's not quite the 300 Spartans versus everyone else blockbuster you've been sold. If it really was just 300 warriors, King Leonidas would have needed a couple of clones and a time machine to pull off that epic hold. Yet, the world can't get enough of this myth. 300 oiled, chiseled Spartans standing alone against Persia's horde, while all of Greece apparently hid under their beds. It's a story so persistent it probably has a six-pack and a slow-motion battle montage. But then reality crashes the party with the facts. Those 300 Spartans did not fight solo. They had plenty of company. Thousands of fellow Greeks from other city-states squeezed into that narrow pass. Thespians, Thebans, and a sprinkling of others signed up, turning Thermopylae into more of a doomed potluck than a one-man show. Lots fought, lots died. Not everyone sported crimson capes, but the shared sense of doom was universally stylish. Even before the so-called last stand, a much larger Greek force was engaged in skirmishes and tactical withdrawals. The Persians brought an overwhelming armada, but Greek numbers were no rounding error. If ancient battles were won by press releases, Sparta's PR team would be undefeated. Pro tip from antiquity, always bring friends. Just make sure only your name headlines the legend. Over time, the narrative shrank to a sleek, heroic soundbite. After all, carving a statue of 300 heroes beats chiseling one for 7,000. And This Is Sparta has a much better ring than This Is Sparta, Thespiae, Thebes, and Friends. From ancient warriors defending narrow passes to modern cavalry facing mechanized tanks, tales of bravery span eras and technologies. Picture this! A dashing horseman drawing his saber, ready to duel a hulking metal beast with a cannon for a nose. Cinematic gold, historically suspect. If charging a tank on horseback with nothing but a sword counts as bravery, then jousting a hungry lion while wearing steak-scented cologne must be pure strategic genius. The popular myth tells us that in 1939, Polish cavalrymen heroically, and perhaps hopelessly, charged German tanks armed with swords and sheer pluck. Imagine gleaming sabers flashing against impenetrable armor, horses dancing around firing cannons. Michael Bay would love it. But history neighs in protest. This tale probably galloped out of the chaos at the Battle of Krojanti, where Polish cavalry actually surprised German infantry. No tanks involved. Their sabers found soft targets, not steel, and things only got messy when German armored cars showed up. Cue the dramatic mix-up. Then enter the press corps. Foreign journalists, eager for a headline as wild as their imaginations, took this nugget of fact and polished it into myth. Suddenly, swords versus tanks, a foolhardy charge aiming to give tanks a good scratch. Nazi propaganda grabbed the story with glee, racing to paint Polish resistance as tragically naive. But hold your horses before buying this David versus Goliath bedtime story. The Polish cavalry was far from archaic. They were equipped with anti-tank rifles, machine guns, and knew full well that horses don't come with Michelin tires or mythical tank-busting horseshoes. This myth reduces their nimble resourcefulness to caricature. In truth, these cavalrymen adapted quickly, fought fiercely, and deserve honor untarnished by saber-rattling tall tales. So next time you hear the swords versus steel legend, remember, there's bravery, there's folly, and then there's the undeniable appeal of a good wartime yarn. Just as surprising military tactics challenge our perceptions, the image of ninjas as invisible figures dressed in black captivates popular imagination. If you picture ninjas spending their nights cosplaying as the Grim Reaper, think again. That iconic image of a deadly shadow-bound figure slipping through moonlit corridors in head-to-toe black. Thank you, Hollywood, but we'll take it from here. Blockbusters love to dress ninjas like Gap employees clocking overtime. All black, deadly serious, and probably sick of folding hoodies. The real test of ninja invisibility wasn't ghosting through crowds. It was whether your rice paddy disguise passed muster with actual farmers. Let's unravel this fashion faux pas. The classic ninja suit didn't spring from feudal Japan. It came from kabuki theater, where stagehands wore black to blend into the background like ninjas of the curtain. Real ninjas knew this. A man in gleaming black under moonlight looks less like a threat and more like a walking ink blot. That's more likely to earn laundry tips than strike fear into a samurai's heart. The truth? Ninjas were masters of social camouflage, slipping into farmers' straw hats, temple priest robes, or merchant tunics, whichever fooled the target best. Capes and dramatic leaps. Pure stagecraft, not paddy field practicality. The legendary disappearing act in a puff of smoke. Sorry, save that for anime marathons and let-down birthday magicians. Instead of nunchucks, ninjas often carried baskets, perfect for blending in, less perfect for blockbuster fight scenes. So next time you picture a ninja in midnight couture, remember, their real stealth was in not being seen at all, including by fashion critics. And if the art of blending in means brandishing a leek instead of a lethal weapon, well, call it produce-based espionage. Behind the mysterious cloak of ninjas lies another enigma, the legendary difficulty of cracking secret wartime codes. If cracking the Enigma code was a walk in the park, then Stonehenge must be just a fancy pile of pebbles. Many picture the British codebreakers breezing through Nazi ciphers like they're tackling a crossword puzzle at high tea, perhaps with crumpets and a courteous round of applause. The legend says Alan Turing had a sudden flash of inspiration, shouted, "Eureka!" An enigma folded neatly like a well-creased napkin before dinner. Let's pop that sun-dappled bubble. In truth, Enigma was a fiendishly tangled cipher that Nazi Germany used to cloak its military moves. The Bletchley Park codebreakers weren't lounging on garden benches. They were shivering in leaky wooden huts that made British winters feel downright cruel. If this was a stroll in the park was rigged with landmines, labyrinthine hedges, and not a single ice cream vendor in sight. Only soggy sandwiches and relentless deadlines. And forget those Hollywood light bulb moments. Alan Turing didn't crack Enigma during a leisurely lunch break, unless your lunch lasts several years, drenched in back-breaking, brain-melting grind. More oy vey than Eureka, you can bet. Cracking Enigma wasn't a solo gig, it was a symphonic marathon. Mathematicians, linguists, engineers, plus unsung Polish cryptanalysts all chipped in, often leaning on luck, or the fortunate capture of actual German codebooks and machines. Who needs playground puzzles when wartime espionage is your game? The kicker? All that blood, sweat, and crumpet crumbs shaved up to 2 years off World War II. So next time someone calls it a simple stroll, remind them this park was more obstacle course than picnic, and its victory anything but leisurely. While codebreaking was a complex feat, myths about Vikings portray them as invincible warriors garbed with iconic helmets. Picture a Viking. Do you see a burly guy sporting a horned helmet, charging into battle like a Norse rhinoceros? Congrats! You've just been hoodwinked by 19th century artists and a few over-the-top Wagner operas. The only thing more fictional than Thor's hair care routine is that horned helmet myth. Real Viking headgear was all business. Practical dome-shaped metal caps as hornless as a boiled egg. Sorry to burst your warrior fashion bubble, but let's be honest. Horned helmets make spectacular cosplay props, even if they're terrible for squeezing through doorways or surviving rush hour at the Longhouse. It's way more glamorous to picture Vikings rampaging Europe like horned, head-butting juggernauts. The truth? Vikings were a mixed bag. Sure, some swung axes with jaw-dropping flair, but many were just scruffy guys with unruly beards and decent boats. These fierce types weren't invincible either. They lost plenty, especially when going up against armies who actually practiced formation marching. And get this, many Vikings sported helmets made of simple leather, or no helmets at all. So much for heavy metal. If anything was truly unbeatable, it was probably the stench after months at sea. Here's the kicker. Most Vikings spent more time growing barley than torching villages. Norwegian tax records show these so-called raiders were farmers by day, pillagers by season, a kind of early gig economy hustle. Legends may have made them out to be superhuman, but let's face it, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like the rest of us. Maybe with more fur, but definitely less flair than your local opera star. The fierce fierce reputation of Viking warriors on land finds a parallel in the belief that early ironclad ships were unbeatable forces at sea. Picture a time when a ship wrapped in iron seemed as menacing as a fiery dragon risen from the depths. Just the silhouette of one of these metal monsters sent shivers through admirals and gave wooden fleets a collective existential crisis. Enter the ironclad, the steam-powered, armor-plated menace debuting like a new boss fight nobody asked for. Rumor quickly became sea legend. Ironclads were supposed to be unsinkable juggernauts, impervious to cannonballs, splinters, and anything short of a vengeful kraken. These ships were the ocean's invincible superheroes, the Iron Man of the high seas, minus the snarky quips. The reality, let's just say history's first ironclads weren't exactly red carpet material. Slapping iron on a ship didn't instantly transform it into Poseidon's armored avenger. Many ironclads lumbered along at the speed of a hungover tortoise, steered like rebellious shopping carts, and, most damning of all, leaked so badly you'd need a mop crew just to stay afloat. Malfunctions were the norm. Some overheated spectacularly, others sank without so much as a warning ping. Leaks popped up faster than pirate gossip. Case in point, the legendary slugfest between USS Monitor and CSS Virginia. The world expected a clash of titans. Instead, we got a slow-motion sumo bout between armored turtles. The only thing truly invincible was their stubborn knack for getting stuck in mud flats. So, to defeat an ironclad, you didn't need bigger guns, just patience or a strategically placed sandbar. Despite their fearsome looks, these early ironclads were less leviathans of conquest and more floating prototypes. But hey, they did eventually pave the way for genuine maritime superheroes, one wave at a time. Similarly, myths about ironclad ships' invincibility are echoed by misconceptions about the American Civil War being the deadliest conflict ever. Think the American Civil War holds the crown for deadliest conflict ever? Hold on to your stovepipe hats. This myth is puffier than a general's ego on inspection day. Ask around, and plenty will swear the Civil War claimed more lives than any other war in human history. Because, well, if it happened here, surely no one else could rival that tragic efficiency. Turns out, only in America do we think we're number one, even when it's about self-inflicted disaster. Let's check the scoreboard. The Civil War's death toll clocks in around 620,000 to 750,000. Staggering? Absolutely. But on the global horror scale, it's more of a tragic fumble than a historic knockout. If wars were sports, the Civil War would earn a participation ribbon labeled Most Bitter Family Feud. Step aside, because World War II blasts past with a staggering 70 million deaths, a record not just broken, but obliterated with the subtlety of a bazooka. And don't forget the marathon misery runners, the Taiping Rebellion in 19th century China, with death tolls that can rival or even outpace the Civil War, and World War I, which quietly buried millions under mud and barbed wire. Seems history's leaderboard for deadliest mess is anything but civil. Why the confusion? American history textbooks spotlight the Civil War like the ultimate tragedy, the bloodiest, most bitter domestic showdown. But on the global stage, it barely makes the top tier. So next time someone pledges allegiance to the Civil War as the world's deadliest, toss in a little global perspective and remind them that deadliest war has long been a fiercely contested title. Amid the horrors of brutal wars like the Civil War, stories such as the widespread Christmas truce in WWI suggest moments of unexpected humanity and peace. Hook, picture this! Sworn enemies ditching rifles for a quick holiday carol-off in the trenches. Yes, the First World War's legendary Christmas truce supposedly had Germans and Brits belting out Silent Night, swapping chocolates and showing off some questionable soccer skills. Cue the warm fuzzies, and maybe a Netflix cameo, Myth. The popular legend paints the Christmas truce of 1914 as a massive, spontaneous peace party sweeping the Western Front. Holiday magic, right? Suddenly, everyone's trading hats, harmonizing carols, and maybe even rating each other's mustaches. The star story? Entire battalions dropping guns to pick teams for an impromptu soccer match, proving international peace was just a slightly deflated ball away. Facts. Well, not exactly. The truce did occur between some British and German units, but it wasn't universal. In many trenches, silent night was drowned out by very not silent gunfire, and in plenty of places, the only caroling was creative cursing. As for those legendary soccer matches, historical records hint at a casual kickabout here and there, but don't picture Messi dribbling through the mud. FIFA definitely wouldn't have approved, unless trench foot counted as a yellow card. Punch! If soccer really settled conflicts, someone should tell the average British pub on a Saturday night. Also, holiday cheer dries up fast when your commanding officer drops by. Surprise, surprise! Military brass aren't exactly keen on hugging it out with the enemy. Bridge! Still, even if the truce wasn't a giant coordinated love fest, its symbolism lives on. A brief pause for humanity in a war of attrition. A muddy, football-adjacent reminder that even amid chaos, people sometimes chose cocoa over combat. For a few precious hours, anyway.